Hello, fabulous fourth graders. So today we're going to continue our talks about topographic maps. 2 days ago, Mr. B told you all the basics for topographic maps. And yesterday, Miss Albrecht spent time going over all of the important vocabulary words. So I kind of wanted to review those vocabulary words that she went over, and then we'll start to analyze these maps. So, as she told you, these circular lines that we see on here are called contour lines. When those lines are close together, we have a steep slope. When these lines are far apart, we have a gradual slope. Our peak is going to be our very tip top of our mountain, and then our elevation, I made sure to put that line right at these numbers because that tells you how many miles high in the sky those different elevations are. So as the mountain gets higher and higher, that's how much further in the air you are from the ground. So the next thing I wanted to talk about are some of the details that we could notice about these 4 different topographic maps. If we were to look at A, we can see that there is 1, 2, 3, 4 different elevation marks based off of our contour lines. If you were going to go hiking on this mountain, you may want to go up on this end because it's not going to be as steep of a hiking mountain. If we look at B, we can see that there are 2 different peaks on this mountain, which is very similar to D, which also has 2 peaks. And then if we look over at C, we can see that there's only 2 contour lines. They're pretty far apart, so this is going to be more like a hill and less like a mountain. So if we were looking at these, and we need to match these sentences to our different topographic maps. If we have gentle slopes on all sides, we really want to look at C, just like we talked about. So C is going to be a small little hill. There's gentle slopes. None of the contour lines are close together. So C matches gentle slopes on all sides. For this second sentence, we see a round hill with 2 peaks. So we're going to look for a very rounded hill, and we're going to have 2 peaks. But wait a second, we've got 2 hills or mountains with 2 peaks. So how do we tell the difference? This is when we may want to skip over an option and continue on to see which one is going to make the most sense. So if we do that, let's skip down to the steep south side. So if we're looking at this map, the south side is going to be towards the bottom of the mountain, and that's going to be over here on A. So this south end of this mountain is super steep. If you can tell up at the very tip top before you get to the peak, those contour lines are almost touching, which means that this could be considered like a straight up view looking up as how steep that mountain's going to be. So our very last option is 2 peaks with the east side higher. So this is where we're going to decide which one of these sentences goes with either B or D. So if we need to find a mountain peak that has the east side higher, the east side is going to be the right side of the mountain. So do either of these 2 mountains have a right side that has 1 extra contour line? I hope you said B in your brain or out loud, because B is our correct answer for this last one. So 2 peaks with the east side higher is going to be B, which means our second sentence over here is going to match D. Now, if we were looking at a mountain and we're trying to figure out some different things to do on the mountain, we may want to take different directions based on what we're doing. So for instance, if you are going skiing, you're going to want some contour lines that are fairly close together so you have a nice steep hill to go skiing on. I drew a line right here with A to show a fantastic spot on this mountain for skiing. If you were going to go hiking, you may not want to hike straight up the side of the mountain. You may want to find some lines that are a little bit further apart so that the slope is a little bit more gradual and it's a little bit easier of a hike. So I drew 3 different lines that could be considered B of different ways that you could hike. The easiest hike for this one is going to be right here at the top of the map where the hill lines are furthest apart because that's going to be the most gradual. The one at the bottom and the one over here to the right, those ones are going to be very similar. The one over here at the bottom is going to be a little further apart, so it could be a little bit easier. And then this one in the back is going to be the most difficult because as we can see, there are a couple places where those contour lines are fairly close together to give a pretty steep hike. And then I picked a little sweet spot over here, see, picnic with a view. It wouldn't be too bad of a hike up there, and you'd be able to see some awesome views from that elevation spot without having to go to the peak of the mountain. I wanted to give you an example of a real life topographic map. So a lot of different state parks and a lot of different mountain ranges have these so that hikers can plan out how they want to hike, or maybe where they want to spend the night in their tent, where they need to go to get water, where they need to go to have a good time. So this is a real life use of a topographic map. And a reason you might need this is if you were going to go camping in this state forest for a couple days, you may need to know not only how to get around in the forest, but it also shows you how intense the hiking is going to be and if you need to try and take a different path to either make the hiking easier or more difficult. And it could show you where a good place to settle in for the night might be. You might not want to pick a spot that has super close contour lines because it could be the side of a mountain and you don't want to fall off. So those are just some things to think about when you're analyzing or looking at and figuring out topographic maps. The next thing you're going to do is you are going to head to Google Classroom on your exit ticket. You are going to look at this picture. This picture will also be on your Google Map Classroom, and then the questions are going to be right next to that picture. So you're going to look at that map. You're going to decide which letter signifies the tallest point of Rock Mountain. And then you're going to hike a trip, figure out which part of the mountain, if you were going to hike on a trip, which path would you take and why? So maybe if you like a steep or difficult hike, you may pick one route. If you are somebody who likes a gradual hike, not a lot of difficulty, you might pick a different route. So those are the 2 questions that you're going to answer. You're going to head to your Google Classroom now. Make sure you analyze this topographic map and pick the best answer for both of those questions. All right, kiddos, have a fabulous rest of your day, and we will see you later.